Bigger than capes.
Guineas for that sadness.
Yeah, I was looking forward to it, and then I watched it.
Right.
Hello and welcome to Bigger Than Capes. I'm Zach. This is our November roundup, and I had no confidence in that. And this week I'm joined by Angela, Will, and Matt, collectively Bigger Than Capes November roundup.
That was with better confidence. Well done.
Yeah.
I think there's been such an uncertainty every month of what month it is when I say that it's
hard.
nice.
It's hard to know when we are anymore.
It's nice to actually record the November roundup in November. It gives me a slight understanding, but also confuses me.
That's fair.
It's a weird logic.
It is. How have we all been in the last few weeks?
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, not bad. Thought Bubble, which we'll talk about in another episode.
We will.
We shall.
Yeah, I did not go to Thought Bubble, but I do have a puppy, so I figure it balances out.
Swings and roundabouts, you know.
Yeah. Puppy was said reason.
And we watched wrestling. Hangman won. Very happy.
He did.
I would have cried if he hadn't.
That's fair.
Yeah.
On brand for you. No. I feel like have we done other stuff? Has other things happened? No, probably not.
Yeah, there was a small press thing.
Yeah,
There was.
I hosted a small press market, and we had local artists selling small press and stuff, and that was cool.
It was really good.
Yeah. I had a good time. I'm hoping we can do more of them in the new year with a little bit more planning and stuff. So watch this and other spaces as well.
Listen to this space.
Yeah.
Listen to this space. Something about that doesn't feel right, but
In space, no one can hear you mark it.
just gonna leave that where it lies. And
I think that's pretty good. I think advertising agencies will be after that.
they'll be in touch.
Yeah,
they'll be there. Yeah.
So anyone got any news or trivia or
not particularly comic related, just off the top of my head, but I've been watching the Beatles documentary. That's just come on Disney Plus. Peter Jackson's edited 1968. It's quite hard to describe what it was. It was like a show that ultimately fell through and then sort of became Abbey Road and Let It Be eventually. And because it's made by Peter Jackson, it's about 9 hours long. And of course, that means there are bits of it you think probably be edited out. This like the fifth sort of time that you see them jam for 15 straight minutes. I think the first couple of times was pretty good. And now you're just sort of covering blues tracks. Exactly like any rehearsal goes, when you just get bored and start noodling about. But I don't need to see the Beatles do it, I don't think. But you also just see them, the genesis of these songs. You see Paul McCartney kind of write Get Back just out of a jam, and then just starts piecing it together, singing the melody, and then at one point he just, I say gets it right as if it's been done backwards. But at one point he kind of hits the melody and you're like, oh, there it is. And that's really fascinating, watching them actually just.
That sounds pretty cool.
Basically, smash out this song, and it's really, really interesting, and it's a good watch. Boy, Peter, just
he can't help himself.
Isn't it funny to remember that we used to actually talk about music on here occasionally, and and be able to play music?
It was a different time, though, wasn't it? It's
another life.
I haven't had a chance to start watching the Beatles documentary yet. I've been trying to catch up on kind of all the Disney Plus Marvel. Like, I've still not finished What If. I think I'm halfway now, so maybe I will finish it one of these days. Also watched the first 2 Hawkeye episodes.
That's what I was about to ask. Like, I don't have Disney Plus, so I've not watched any of it. But it's one of the first ones of the like Disney Plus type stuff that's made me go, Marvel stuff that's made me go, okay.
I've heard some really mixed things from other people, but I just think it's great. I think it completely nails the like Matt Fraction Hawkeye kind of thing, which I know people had felt we were never going to get because Hawkeye has a family in the MCU. But I've also seen people who are really weird who are like, this is more about Kate Bishop. And it's like, yeah, because Jeremy Renner's going to go away and someone else is...
Kate
someone
Bishop,
else is
yeah,
doing
because
Hawkeye.
she's cooler.
Yeah, in a lot of ways.
Black Widow was a film to essentially like swap Black Widows.
Yeah, to give us a new Widow.
And it feels a bit like Hawkeye is that like transitional, the baton pass that, Christ, I'd encourage Marvel to really do.
Yeah, and I'm okay with it because I like Kate Bishop a lot. I kind of think at this point, anyone who read Fraction's run and doesn't like Kate Bishop is kind of weird to me.
There's
I like
something
that.
wrong with them.
I like that even Disney can't surmount just like basic aging. I think if they could find some way to make sure that none of them ever aged and played those characters for the remainder of eternity, then they would.
They would, yeah.
But
Yeah, definitely.
Thankfully, they have the right to say no. I don't want to be Captain
I'm old,
America
I'm
anymore.
gonna go home.
Yeah.
Thankfully, human CGI is still a little bit uncanny valley.
Oh,
But
it's
if
horrifying.
they were there, they would be doing that, I feel. But luckily, technology isn't quite where their ambition lies at the moment.
Forces the hand.
Yeah.
I also caught up on The Expanse, the 5th season, with the 6th and final one due out pretty soon.
Soon? I don't know when, but soon.
Despite having quite a big gap. Like, I thought the 4th season was a bit weak.
I've still never seen any of The Expanse.
It is really good. That's kind of what I was looping around to, is the 5th season's just top.
I think we should acknowledge that Matt's part of the problem, and if you'd been watching it all along, maybe it wouldn't be getting cancelled now.
Everyone says that it's like it's like actually good science fiction that I would like specifically.
I don't know specifically what type of science fiction you like specifically, but it is really good science fiction.
I'd say the best like live action sci-fi we have right now.
Yeah, I think it looks really good, like probably on a considerable budget, but I think like they pull off the CGI stuff mainly by having it in dark space. Like they do a lot to hide it, but in a way that really works. All the characters are great. Like most of the acting performances are really good.
And most of the science makes sense.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff about actual like G-force and stuff, and the fact that you rattle the inside of your body around when you try and turn in space, and it's really interesting.
Really, really good. Looking forward to the final season, but also sad that it's the final season.
Yeah, but unlike like my beloved Final Space, at least it gets to end.
Yes, at least they knew it was the final season, whereas Final Space didn't, and now I'll forever be heartbroken.
That's now I don't want to spoil it if anybody is still watching Final Space, which I heavily encourage.
Thank you.
But that's now
stick my fingers in my ears for this bit.
Now that's now the canonical ending.
You might say it's a canonical cliffhanger.
Well, I think we know what happens next.
Another season brought to us by Netflix, right?
God, if
right?
They picked up bloody Lucifer. They could pick this up.
Netflix is not your friend. Yeah.
Every Netflix series I like tends to not get a second season, so
I've noticed that.
Live in fear.
Just while we're on this subject, and we don't normally do this much, like preamble, but have you seen that? Is it PBS who own Star Trek TV rights? CBS.
Yeah, PBS is the public broadcast system.
Oh God, I'd love it if Star Trek was made through PBS. There
would be no budget. There would be no budget at all.
Exactly. It'd be wonderful stuff.
God, imagine it though, having to do practical effects though.
It'd be so great. Anyway,
or truly terrible CGI. Either would be great.
yeah, really like
All
oily,
made in iMovie.
oily, greasy CGI. But no, my point was that they have they're going to launch their own streaming service, and to preempt that, have withdrawn all of Star Trek Discovery from
Haven't they?
Netflix.
Yes, they have.
Oh, well, they've already done
okay.
it. It's Peacock, isn't it?
No, that's NBC.
I don't know my American channels. I'm glad you're up on it, Angela.
I'm there for you. Yeah, Peacock's
so,
NBC.
Yeah, it's just that they've not even made their platform yet, but they've decided that nobody can see it. Nobody is allowed to view this property in the interim. It's
Unless you're in America.
corporate dickheadery to the highest degree.
And I assume this is going to fall into that kind of HBO Max, DC, was it DC Universe territory, where England will never get it, so we'll just be left in kind of Discovery purgatory until.
Yeah.
But that's it. It's probably a series I'll just not finish now.
Just be like me and just still buy things on DVD and Blu-ray.
Yeah. But then I've got like landfill in making, and I've already got just boxes full of plastic that need to go somewhere, and I think firing them into space is probably the best solution. So yeah,
well, we've ruined this planet. Let's not ruin space as well.
Neither solution is perfect, is it? Oh God! Just
put all our garbage on the moon and be done with it.
Sit in a corner and imagine films.
But then, if you put all the waste on the moon, eventually that's going to catch fire and blow the moon out of orbit.
You're saying build a second garbage moon?
Oh, stop it!
Exactly on the other side of the Earth.
Yeah,
well, then that's going to cause havoc with the tides, and it's just going to be. But maybe that'll balance out climate change. Who's to say?
Or we'll hide it behind the existing moon so the tides don't notice.
For climate change, we just go and mine. We just go and mine ice. From comets, and we dump
on Sirius Station.
Drop them into the ocean. Problem solved. New ice cap.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I bet people didn't expect us to solve all of the Earth's problems in the last 3 minutes. But
we said we're bigger than Cape, so we're finally proving it. We're on to world politics and ecological problems.
Bigger than COP, yes.
Never found a problem we can't solve in 3 minutes. There's a podcast idea. Each week, people write in an idea, and in a 3-minute burst, we'll resolve it.
Solve the problem.
So basically,
a lot of it will be setting things on fire.
So, in the words of the great Vanilla Ice, if you got a problem, we'll solve it.
Yeah.
Well, it's a new string to our bow. An unexpected one, and one that I don't think I'm ready for, but
that may never appear again.
Zach, I don't know if we can solve all the other problems by just using ideas from Futurama episodes, though.
Not with that attitude.
Sexy female lawyer.
Client. I still regularly think about the single female lawyer theme song. Wearing sexy miniskirts and being self-reliant.
Good stuff. Shall we divert to our
probably
primary purpose?
Should we divert?
Why the hell not? Let's try that for a bit. Let's solve comics.
3 minutes, go.
So first up is the book I'm introducing, judging by the way the notes read, and is A Thing Called Truth #1 from Image Comics. It is written by Iolanda Zanfardino, and the artist is Elisa Romboli. In a nutshell, I say that as if I'm going to sum this up really quickly. I'm not. I'm obviously going to make a mess of this. We are met with a character by the name of Dr. Magdalene Trauma, with a umlaut over the U, so Trauma.
Yeah,
Trauma.
That's what I went for.
Yeah.
Max Trauma. Who basically, and it's left a little bit vague, has developed some kind of device that will save lives in hospitals through medicine. It's also crazy cheap compared to other devices.
Two medicines.
Let me just check. I'm not missing anything here. It is left incredibly vague. Okay.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So Magdalene checks out at the end of the day, successful in her research, goes home, and when she comes back, basically finds that evil big pharmacy company have made it appear that she quit her job, never completed the research, and has left, so they can be evil and make money and
had a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
Incredibly relatable. Except none of it really happened. So then she, I don't know, gets blackout drunk as a response, as is the agreed upon like response to being screwed over by a giant corporation, and passes out in the back of a car. When she wakes up, she's being driven to Italy by a strange woman who's stole her car, borrowed her car with her inside. Who can say? Does anyone think I've missed anything, or have I hit all the bullet points of this?
There's also the fact that her ex-husband Naval
also works for the same company.
Yeah, and she hasn't signed the divorce papers yet, even though she comes home and there's a load of letters and one of them's like urgent, please sign, and she just throws it in the bin, and then he's on the phone and I can't remember what he's listed as on the phone. Exasperating husband, I think.
Yeah,
and the aspirating
like that,
brackets. Yeah. Yeah.
I think through their relationship as well, like we see that she is a genius, but one who is negligent of sort of all things but her own work.
Yeah, a little sort of maladjusted in that regard. Like, yeah.
I agree.
Thank you.
As do I.
So, okay, I was going to read this anyway. Before it was in the roundup. Iolanda and Elisa's previous book was Alice in Leatherland from Black Mask, which I read and thought was really good. I've also read Yolanda's other book, Midnight Radio. Was a big fan of both and kind of wanted to check this out as well. I will admit it's a bit of a wild start. A lot happens quite quickly and we're left on a kind of surprise cliffhanger. I guess all cliffhangers are a surprise. And I'm not really sure where this is heading.
No.
But I do have quite a lot of faith in the creative team, so I'm kind of optimistic that it will start to make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a it's a tale of like corporate malfeasance, and like seemingly a wild, possibly Thelma and Louise style adventure, that I think could be really fun. I quite enjoyed this episode issue. Like there's a lot of life to the art. Like it's real. Like it's really expressive. Like as sort of kind of as sort of. Oh my god, my brain is dying. I had words. I was smart. I said things like corporate malfeasance.
It was all downhill from there.
You were doing great. I was impressed.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like life to the art, particularly Dr. Trauma is like really expressive. Like when she's drunk and sort of doing much bigger movements. Like and the way like when she's like storming in to her work, there's real forcefulness and assertiveness to her movements, and that then suddenly evaporates and we see like a much more vulnerable, sort of shocked looking character, and then like it just like the emotional spectrum is really kind of on display here, and really well characterized in ways that still feel like the same persons, very much feel like the same face. And things.
I like this book, and I think the core premise of it, as you said about her making this kind of undescript invention, which will be mega cheap and save loads of lives, and that the kind of corporate baddies have turfed her out in order to sell it for the most that they can, and make big profits. And I think that kind of core premise is good, and I like that quite a lot. There are bits of the execution that didn't quite work for me. Mm-hmm. There's a particular page where once they've essentially told her that you've resigned, and therefore kind of resigned all of your right to the invention. There's a page of the perpetrators of these kind of like big bosses of this company, and the way they talk, it just makes them look like cartoon bad guys.
Yes,
they're too aware. I think they're too aware of being evil, and I think like it didn't sit with the rest of the kind of vibe for me. Like it seemed just a bit unrealistic in the world that had been set out. And I think if it was a more like broadly kind of cartoony book, or more maybe comedically based, like that would probably work for me a bit better. But it felt a bit out of place for me. That like I say, I think even in reality, even people who do like monstrous things tend to justify it in their own head and don't consider themselves to be bad. And I think that plays off as me as a bit more of a plausible stance than like, we literally know we're fucking this person over in order to fuck everybody else over. It just being so kind of obvious and knowledgeable about it just sat out as a bit of an odd section for me.
I can get that.
I agree with Matt about the art. I think the art's really great, and you're right. It's got like a vibrancy to it in both the color and the facial expressions, and a lot of the character kind of designs are really good.
Yeah, there's a really good like fisheye lens.
Yes,
on her like
camera.
Yeah, and her glasses always have like a bit of reflection on them that gives them like texture.
I feel like there's good detail as well, like with all the pens stuck in her hair and things like that, which is something you wouldn't get with a lot of comics. I also, and this might be something purely for me and possibly Angela, but like Alice in Leatherland was kind of all coloured in like shades of pink.
Yes, yes, it was. Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting to have more colours. Although I still think, kind of scene to scene, we have kind of set colours. So like, when we have the kind of corporate bosses, they've got a kind of blue-green colour scheme, and then there's a definite shift in colours between each location and cast of characters, which is really well done. I think it really works as far as colouring goes. I feel like there's probably a technical name for that kind of colouring where everything's got like a...
Yeah, where it's all ordered like that.
A synchronicity.
Ooh, words.
Yeah,
nice.
That. I like it when we use a good word.
Yeah. I'm gonna sort of take it different. I think I read this differently to certainly Matt and Will, because I don't think the central thing is necessarily about the evil capitalism. For me, the way I read it was, this is a wake-up call for Dear Mags. And I think that's why they talk like evil villains, because it's almost cartoonish in the way that they're in the story, because the story isn't going to be about the medical device that saves the world, per se. It's more about Mags actually discovers that there's more to her life beyond her work, because it's pretty clear that all she's got is a work. I mean, there's that great bit where you just see all these letters piled up in her apartment, flat, whatever, and she's just sort of wading through it. She's just ignoring everything in life apart from her work. And even when her ex-husband's like trying to speak to her, she's still all about the work, and you can kind of see why they broke up. So I think the hook for me, it almost feels like her being gaslighted and her work being stolen is just a catalyst. It's an interesting catalyst because you don't often with these things, it's something else. To have a female scientist who goes through that sort of experience is different to what we often get with female characters in comics having life-changing moments. Normally it's very similar, actually. Guillem March's Laura. We'll get onto that at some point, but that's reminded me of that. There's often a catalyst that, changes a life. And for me, it's inconsequential who the evil capitalist doctor pharmaceutical guys are. And it's kind of inconsequential that they're just going to steal her work and sell it because that's capitalism and the world's a horrible place. And we know this. But I think you've got there a really big catalyst for her to completely change her life. And that's just sort of the plot that is given for her to move forward in her life. It could have been anything. It could have been, I don't know, her work gets stolen by a masked vigilante, but it's not. It's capitalism because that's how it works in the world. So, yeah, I just think, for me, that the crux of this is why I was slightly disappointed with it, because Alice in Leatherland's first issue I felt was a lot stronger than this in terms of establishing the relationships between the characters. We don't even know the name of the woman who's stealing a car. Clearly she's important. Mm-hmm. And clearly she's going to go on a Thelma and Louise style road trip with her. And for some reason they're in Italy and, it's going to probably be a love interest kind of thing. But I know nothing about this woman. I don't know her name or anything. So, So for me, that's what it was a bit. It felt like half of the setup in terms of that.
I think this would have benefited from being kind of a longer first issue. This is what, like 20-ish pages. I think it would have benefited from a little bit more. I do think with the kind of cartoonish villain characters, you could be right, and it's kind of her perception of them, because obviously she doesn't know entirely what's gone on behind company doors, that she perceives them as, cartoonish villains.
Yeah.
Makes sense. But yeah, I think this could have been a little bit longer to give us a little bit more, which will come back around to something else we're talking about today, which I think could have afforded to be a little bit shorter.
Ooh.
But what? Who can say?
But you mentioned as much kind of in your intro, and you're right, like it just sort of stops.
Yes.
Yeah, I kept trying to turn the page. Like,
God damn it! Where's the
next bit? And it just, I don't know if this is a case of a graphic novel that has been arbitrarily split into sections, a bit like, oh God, what was that really good Euro book we read?
Carmen,
thank you. Whether it's gone through that kind of treatment, because this doesn't feel like a 20-page arc. It feels like
longer than that.
Yeah, it just feels like it's miss. I agree with you, Angela. I just think it's sort of missing a bit. I'm not sure. I think this was written for singles, or that's how it came out.
Despite being European creators, I don't think this has ever been in any other format. Like,
gotcha. Yeah, like Carmen was.
Midnight Radio went straight to graphic novel, as far as I know, and Alice in Leatherland was split up into issues, but again, I'm not sure Alice in Leatherland needed to be.
It didn't.
So maybe it's a case that either in European comics that are written for singles, because the medium is so strongly graphic novel orientated that it always feels like it should have been singles.
Mm-hmm.
Did that make sense? I kept saying words.
Yeah, it's better as a full thing rather than part things.
Yes, what Angela said.
That's very basic words. I'm afraid my vocabulary is not as good as anyone else's this evening.
So, I don't know. There's quite a lot to like here, especially the art. I think, Angela, if you are right, and like, I don't think it's going to move away from that pharmaceutical thing, because the beginning is clearly the end.
Yeah.
Like the first few pages is obviously going to be somewhat in the future. Yeah. But I don't know. This is a kind of wait and see, I think, for me. If it's all of those things you've said, that she kind of gets herself together and her life and everything surrounding that, while having a rad adventure, then I'm on board. If it's kind of just leads into the kind of broad character building moments, I'm afraid that leaves me a bit cold. So this is a kind of wait and see for me. I think it's definitely got the potential to go in a couple of directions. Yeah, I don't know yet, but definitely plenty to like out of it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Which leads us on to...
Are we going straight on?
Will?
We are.
We are. Okay. So the book that I be presenting is What's the Furthest Place From Here, published by Image, written by Matthew Rosenberg, and art by Tyler Boss, lettering by, Angela, if you will.
Hassan Otsmane Allahu.
Thank you very much. One day I'll simply learn to say it myself. But until that day, I thank you. This is the Four Kids Walk Into a Bank team, a book we've talked about before. And it is the story is set in a sort of post-apocalyptic world occupied by roving gangs of teenagers. And it's all very mysterious. We don't know what's happened. We don't know why it's just teenagers. And as we begin to kind of explore this world through the eyes of one particular gang of teenagers, it just gets increasingly mysterious about what exactly is going on and why. It appears you get to a certain age, and when you do, you pick your record, which is just a cool idea without me understanding why, but come back around to that. You pick your record and you go out into the world somewhere. And this story kind of picks off with one of the, I guess, now adults returning home but dying. And at the same time, the gang go out and get in a gang fight with a different kind of group of teenagers who all wear creepy pig face masks.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
At the same
time, I love a gang with themes.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that our main protagonist is going to be Sid, a young teen girl who is clearly pregnant, but nobody understands what pregnancy is to these particular kids, so they just don't know what's going on. And by the end of this issue, she appears to have left their little gang house building and has set off into the world to find, well, potentially the city, but again, shrouded in much mystery.
I kind of feel like you've nailed all of that really well.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, lovely stuff.
And very much summed up what my first sentiment, the first note I made was, I'm not 100% sure what this is, but I think it's rad. So yeah,
I think this is great. I think I have absolutely no idea what specifically is going on, but
I wish I knew.
It provides enough hint or just like little hook. There are these two characters just called the Strangers who appear to be very, very tall women with bags on their heads, almost like hangman kind of sacks.
Yeah.
Who seemingly just sort of float around in the background. All the kids seem to respect, like they find them in their territory but don't attack them, and they bring them there as babies, but and apparently take them away when they die. Something incredible.
No, they don't normally take them away when they die. That's a big deal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah, the fact that he's gone is clearly a big deal. But it's the laying down of these just very broad mysteries, and I'm intrigued by all of them. I think kind of no surprise after Four Kids Walk Into a Bank, but I think the art is superb. From basic just kind of penciling and design, the color is amazing. And sorry,
no.
And yeah, I think it looks brilliant. I really, really like the graphic design bit on the second page when they've all got little chibi faces. You get all of their names, and then every now and again they'll like pop up on pages when one of them's talking to sort of identify who they are.
Which is a good detail.
Yeah.
And there are quite a lot of characters we've got 11 on that front page, and that's not including the guys who are in other gangs or strangers.
Yeah, not all of them are like immediately important.
Yeah,
but it throws a lot at you quite early doors.
Definitely. I think I think you're right. After 4 kids walk into a bank, and have any of you guys read Dead Dog's Bite?
I haven't heard of it.
No.
It's really good.
Really, really good. It's Tyler Boss's that Dark Horse book from last year, or maybe even this year. That's kind of Twin Peaks style crime.
Yeah.
I feel like is the correct description.
Okay.
Cool.
But that was real good. He also did 1 issue of Turtles, which was really cool. So obviously read that.
I've almost definitely read it, but I don't remember offhand.
It's basically the Turtles, to try and avoid being spotted, I think during the Triceraton invasion, hide in a rec center, but are obviously that they think is abandoned, but it isn't because everyone's being evacuated there. And these 2 kids who are sure they've seen something, so they're trying to find the turtles while the turtles are trying to hide from all the people in this previously abandoned building. It adds nothing to the story that's going on around it, but fuck me, is it good?
always good.
If Tyler Boss is after a quote for any of his single issue Turtles stories, come hit me up. I've clearly got them.
You're the man to ask.
How did you other guys think about it?
I just go on, Matt.
No. Please.
I don't know. But the thing with this was a bit of a stumbling block for me. Does anyone remember an Australian television series that was on Channel 5 over 20 years ago called The Tribe? Nobody but me. Yeah, Matt does. Hooray.
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah.
I remembered it until you said it.
For some reason, this just put me in the mind of that, and I don't know why, and I couldn't get out of it. I was like, there's nothing similar. I mean, there's children trying to run the world, so to speak, or trying to do things. There's no adults, but that's because they were killed off by a virus in the television series, completely different. But there's a pregnant one, and there was a pregnant one in this. So, I don't know, I just couldn't stop thinking about the similarities, so that was a problem for me. But I will say, very good. Yeah. Good art. Like I say, the characters, I like that there's a big cast of characters, but you actually get to know, because I was like, oh my goodness, there's like 11 characters. We're never going to see all of them. They're never going to be, and some of them are more important than others, but the fact that you get to know so many of them so well, I think was really, really good, because I wasn't expecting, because I can actually, reading through the list of characters, I can go, oh yeah, that's that, and I know what they've done in the book, which I think is a good sign, because they're all pretty memorable, which is nice.
That's true.
But
I think no, I agree. I think the script and the voicing of the characters is really good. And it's quite hard to do teenagers, I think, when you're not a teenager. But it felt convincing.
They're kept fairly sort of simplistic, but with just enough to differentiate them all.
Yeah.
It's not so hard that they're like they've watched a few YouTube videos of a 13-year-old and then like just written down what he said. But like, they're kind of naive enough to be childlike, particularly in a world without any kind of parental or adult authority. So they've still kind of got that childishness about how the world functions, but they're sort of big enough and ugly enough to take care of themselves as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, Matt, you go ahead, buddy.
I don't get the, like, I still don't get the album thing. Like,
I'm sensing here that you didn't read the kind of post-issue interview.
Oh shit! Was there a post-interview?
Yeah, that'll be where your answers are at, man.
Right. Okay. So I
did laugh at the fact that the album they put in the furnace is a Husker Du album.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that. Just the bit with Sid saying that Hall and Oates look tough.
Oh yeah, they did look tough on the cover of Private Eyes.
I don't know.
Watching you.
But basically, I think it's Matt Rosenberg in the kind of back matter talks about
Oh, this is embarrassing.
like the you're getting schooled, Matt. You should be reading more. Basically talks about how like the first time you have money and choose an album to buy is like choosing a part of your identity or who you're going to be, and those first records that you buy defining choices you will go on to make. That's why the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack was really important to me.
I was going to say, what do you think? What was the first album each of you can think of that you bought?
I know what it was I bought with my own money,
Mm.
and it was Americana by The Offspring.
Oh,
Nice, solid choice.
We did talk about Offspring.
I think we did, yeah. I saved up quite a lot to buy that. And it was in the old days where, do you remember when CDs still had like security casing around them?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And would be like $15.99 when $15.99 was quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
Especially for like a 13-year-old or whatever, like 50, you had to save up. But it had the added benefit then of like if you bought it, you listened to it until you goddamn liked it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Now, if I don't like it in 2 minutes, I'm like, well, I'm never listening to them ever again.
I think my first one I bought with my own money was probably Number of the Beast, the Iron Maiden album. But there are two like I'm doing the biggest air quotes I can albums that I remember being like asking for on cassette, which were the Smurfs Go Pop when I was like
Nice.
5, and the Power Rangers more like I think it was called like Morph in Time.
Yeah, it was like
cassette.
a really bad rap.
That's the one.
Oh no, I just remember it had like the Green Rangers theme song on it, and I was stopped from listening to it at some point because it made me fight people.
Nice.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did want to point out one particular art piece.
Oh wait, no, we need to know, Angela. What was your first?
Oh, of course,
I
yeah.
can't remember. I honestly hold my hand up. I don't remember. I remember the first single I bought, which was Blondie's Maria. Which was,
nice.
Yeah.
I remember
that. That was
I
the
remember
first
having
single I bought.
Maria on a Now That's What I Call Music. I don't remember what number it was, but it was on the same one as could have been different ones. Maybe I'm merging the memory now, but I think Papa Roach.
I think you're right.
And possibly Scooby Snacks by Fun Loving Criminals.
I have that same. Well, I had that same CD, and I think you might be right that it's the same year.
We're roughly the same age.
Yeah.
We've been through
you're
Christmas.
just making me think now about like when we had that chat about Fat Records.
Oh.
Completely forgot about that, and it was only about 2 weeks ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, so back to the book.
Yes.
Nostalgia away.
I like that even the art is kind of immature. There's a really great bit where it takes 5 like increasingly like bigger panels just to show that they've drawn a dick on his forehead like when he's been asleep. And I think both just doing that is incredibly teenage and incredible, and just showing it off in that way really made me laugh.
Am I right in thinking the first dialogue after that is something along the lines of "Oi, dickhead"? Yeah, good morning, dickhead.
Yeah.
Good morning, dickhead. Yeah,
it's well done. It's good stuff.
Yeah, it is just good stuff. The colouring is so good. I'm just looking through it again, and like all the shading and stuff.
There were 2 design choices in this book that I really appreciated. One was just the Garfield mug, and 2 was the fact that on the opening double-page spread, they have the cool S and a black flag sticker. So you know
the cool S is also on Oberon's face when he wakes up.
See, cool S's everywhere.
It is kind of like what would happen if the world ended, but it was 2002.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's like it could be. It's either like 2002 or like 1996.
Yeah,
maybe like 98.
Time is a flat circle.
Should we try and identify this based on what albums are available to us?
Well, there was.
I mean, Talking Heads are in there, and that doesn't help. Descendants doesn't help.
Descendants.
No.
Descendants.
Closer doesn't help.
Which album is it? Is it Milo Goes? Is it like Milo?
I think it's Milo Goes to College. Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone's holding.
There's a Minor Threat album.
I think someone's holding Phil Collins. Not the one where it's just his face, and that doesn't help because he's got about 3 album covers that are like his face value. Whew.
Is that?
Just going to be checking that it is face value.
John, I didn't really check out the what they'd written on some of the boxes that are pretty good, like sad
bad,
stuff, not so bad.
Yeah, I really like that.
There's tons of great detail.
Might not be face value. It might be No Jacket Required.
Face value does have a picture of his face on it.
As does No Jacket Required. Oh.
I mean,
if it's
that's
face value, that brings it. What? It could be face value. I need to get a life. Can someone? If Matthew Rosenberg is listening, or Tyler Bate, no, not Tyler Bate,
Tyler
Boss. Tyler Bate may be listening. But he's gonna be
Tyler Bate may be listening, or Tyler Boss. If you can email us or tweet or whatever, and just let me know which Phil Collins record that is, that would be great.
At Bigger Than Capes.
Oh yeah, thanks Angela for the hitting people with the information.
Also, when's this set? Just tell us that.
Like,
yeah.
It's, but to be fair, maybe technology, like, because there's no internet, clearly, has just has regressed to a point that humanity has reached its, has gone back to like its peak.
Yeah, they don't show anything that suggests anything.
Yeah, we've gone back to our peak form when music was best. Actually, no. This is before that'd be before Jeff Rosenstock was doing a lot of stuff.
I mean, Jeff would be alive. I'm just.
Oh yeah, and wasn't he involved in Mustard Plug at one point?
Possibly. To be honest.
All right. As much as I like this book,
one here who would know that.
Oh, sorry, Will. Did you not come for the Jeff Rosenstock bibliography talk? Were you here for Bigger Than Capes?
This was never part of the contract.
No, Will was here for being on topic.
Yeah, as much as I like this book, I think that's quite enough from the pair of you. Does anyone have anything more to say about?
No, it's
very
one? Good. End.
Agreed.
Yeah,
I really like it. Yeah, that's basically all I've got to bring to the dance.
Okay.
Sweet.
Fair enough. Is it me then?
I think it's you then.
Right. So the pronunciation I'm about to butcher. I apologise. Did we decide on Guillem?
Yeah.
Okay.
Guillem Mars, is it? Is it Guillem Mars?
Guillem Mars. Possibly March.
Yeah, more.
I think Marta thinks the C and the H are silent, but
yeah, we should probably. The Spanish speaker probably knows. We'll go with Guillem Mart is Laura, which is published by Ablaze, which does not sound a great name for a comic book company because generally they're made of paper, but hey ho. And it's written and arted by Guillem March or Mar, depending on where you want to go. So it's about a girl called Laura, weirdly enough. You may have got that from the title. Laura is in unrequited love with her bestest friend, Marcos. Marcos is in love with Paz. So we find out, and I'm just going to do some spoilers here because there's no way to describe this without spoiling it. So we find out through flashbacks throughout the book that Laura basically made a move on Marcus. It all went wrong. He doesn't return her feelings. She's really sad. Her friend Elena then sort of takes her out on the town. And yeah, she meets this guy, Louis, who sort of she could have a fling with, she could not, but he's really popular with the ladies. It's all about relationships and how they break down and unrequited love and friendship and the human relationships that people apparently deal with. So it's quite introspective. Yeah, people deal with them. I wouldn't know. This is new territory. So yeah, Laura is I'm not going to say she's a stereotype, but there are aspects of her story that will be familiar to anyone who has ever read any teenage fiction. It feels, even though it's written by a chap and arted by a chap, it feels very almost teenage chick lit tropey. And I don't mean that necessarily in a bad way. That's just what it is. That's what it's like. There are similarities if you've read Carmen, which Definitely. If you haven't, you should have. And why haven't you? But there are similarities with Carmen, I think, certainly because there we have Katja, who is she's mourning a friend and a relationship and ends up trying to kill herself. And at one point I did think that Laura was going to go that way. I'll be honest. I thought, yeah, Laura's just going to try and commit suicide because the boy she likes doesn't love her. Which was, it's fine. It's well, for what it is, it's a very well told. It's a very pretty. There's a beautiful bit of art where she's picturing Marcus giving her the moon, which is really lovely, and sort of have this glowing orb, and he plucks it from the sky, and then it's sort of this glowing orb between them in the sea, which is really nicely done. So it's a really pretty book, because I would expect nothing less. If you're into that sort of thing, it's really good. It's just that it is what it is. It's not going to be for everyone. I enjoyed it, but at the same time, I couldn't help but compare it to Carmen and think that was a much more successful exploration of human relationships, whereas this feels a little bit more tropey. And Elena kind of bugged me a little bit, but I get why. I liked that they're all really flawed people. Apart from Paz, we never see Paz. We don't know what Paz is like, but they're all flawed people trying to navigate the world of love and friendship and failing miserably by all accounts. So, yeah, there we are.
A lot of what I was going to say, really. It's definitely similar to Carmen in kind of Katja's story from Carmen. And like the backstory we get between her and, was it Cisco?
Yes, Cisco. Yeah.
It was interesting to me that it says on the cover here that this is like from the artist of Batman and the Joker, because Carmen has literally just come out. But then flicking through, I think this is from 2003, which kind of explains why this doesn't seem as well-rounded as Carmen. Which is interesting because we've kind of seen this with other European comics where finally European creator has been given some credit by the American audience, even though they did great work years ago. And then, like, Maria Yavat did great work in European comics, did Faithless with Brian Azzarello, and then her older stuff has been reprinted via Boom and, I don't know, other publishers. And now it's like, well, that doesn't seem as good as her more recent stuff, but why would it? Because it's natural that people get better. And I feel like that's kind of the issue here, is that this doesn't seem as good as Carmen, but there's nearly 20 years between the two of them. So I guess that's kind of okay.
Yeah, it feels quite, I'm going to say proto-Carmen, almost like Carmen without the supernatural death element, if you will. It does feel like there's a lot that he took from this and put in Carmen, which I think if I'd have read this back in 2003 and then read Carmen, I would probably like it more because I wouldn't be comparing it to a later work. And it's a shame that it has taken this long for it to appear in English.
Yeah, it would have been nice to watch the evolution of it, rather than just have to look back, rather than have to look back on it.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I think it's good that we're finally getting more European comics translated to England translated to English. I wish that could just happen anyway. the cool stuff could get even not the cool stuff, all the stuff. I feel like we should get more European stuff than we get American stuff at times.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's weird that we get more American comics and more Japanese comics than we get European comics when it's definitely closer.
Should have hit the nail on the head with the fact that Americans write in a language we can read.
I mean, in a way, that's just cheating, though, isn't it?
Yeah. But
but no, I am glad we've got this, but I would agree that it is quite proto Carmen, and it does feel a little bit disjointed at times. I don't know if that was just me.
No,
okay.
I think it's trying to integrate the flashbacks into the current. That's the thing, because it was quite confusing. You open and you realise that something emotional has happened, but then you're going forward and then you're going back. It doesn't quite flow. The flashbacks and the current story aren't integrated seamlessly.
I agree. I would be interested, and obviously we can't be that person. I would be interested to see what someone thinks of this who's read this before Carmen.
Yeah.
I think that would probably help our thoughts, feelings, emotions, stuff.
I mean, I've not read all of Carmen.
You need to.
I've not finished it either, actually.
You both need to. Yeah, you need to. I'm saying nothing more.
What it meant was I didn't have as direct a comparative thing.
Yes, that makes sense.
I do think the art is quite nice in here. But the supernatural element of Carmen makes a surprisingly big difference for me. Ultimately, I actually found this a bit boring.
I can understand that.
It didn't, with Carmen, because it has that supernatural thing, it feels like it has a much bigger scope to look at. It's sort of a human's impact in the world, because you can see her entire life. And obviously I don't know where it goes, but at least that's the impression I get on the launch in Carmen. This just seems to be following a group of characters, and I don't really like any of them. And that's not always a necessity. Like it sometimes upsets me when people say like, "Oh, I don't like this character," and you think you're not supposed to. Like that's why they're a good character. So it's not particularly from that angle, but I also don't care about any of these characters. I don't really care like what happens in their relationships. It just didn't grab me in that way. Unfortunately, I think some of it is not its own fault. It's clearly been translated, and some of the text is just a little bit stilted sometimes. That I can absolutely forgive. Like I'm not gonna tear it apart from that. There are a couple of things like this one seems to be made up of like 2 smaller chapters.
Yes.
Yeah.
It has little sort of, I don't know if they're covers or just kind of dividers. I really don't like them. I think they look ugly. I normally don't really care about covers and stuff, but
I completely agree. I feel like they seem almost like collage mood board kind of things, which is kind of weird. I don't know.
Maybe it is setting a certain tone that, as a 33-year-old man, I'm just not understanding. But I just didn't like them. The actual like art itself is of course like very nice. It doesn't have. I don't want to keep. We've all compared it too much to Carmen, but this kind of inventiveness in like panel work and stuff isn't quite there yet. I think it's a bit more standard in that. But the actual kind of pencil work and faces and a lot of the colouring I think is really nice. I agree with you, Angela, that like dream sequence is the standout moment, I think, art-wise. But as where Carmen did get me very excited to see what happened next. It didn't get its hooks in me, this one.
I think that's fair. I think, right. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, I remembered the term I was trying to remember for what the covers kind of are. Not exactly, but quite. Like fumetti. Like the Italian, like it's, I can never remember whether it's Italian or French term for like photo comics.
Okay.
Yes.
They're not quite,
Mm.
but they're like in that they're not really telling a story. But yeah, sorry, that was going to bug me if I didn't say it.
I was just going to say I don't think the writing is as good as Carmen is, and I don't think the art is as good as Carmen
No.
is. But I
No.
think it definitely shows a consistency that
Yeah.
carries
Yeah.
on through Batman, Gotham City Sirens into Carmen, and lettering is good though, isn't it?
Yeah,
Lettering A+.
it's one of those things where, like you say, if you saw it as like your first comic by this person, you go, oh, they've got a lot of potential.
Yeah.
And like I can't wait to see where they go. But again, after having seen where they go, it is harder to go back.
Now
Yeah.
that's interesting that you raise the lettering. Now, no, this isn't my ballpark, I'll admit. And again, a lot of this I kind of put down to, I imagine the speech bubbles are there for the original language.
Yes.
But there's a lot of times when they've had to hyphenate single words.
Mm.
And there's enough room in that bubble, you just need to move it around a bit. And,
That's true.
I think, I'm not. I think, like, the typeface is nice enough, and I think that when it gets into some of the bigger moments where it's filling a speech bubble, is good lettering. But actually, on several kind of occasions, there's one page in particular where it does it twice.
That is a good point.
There are no page numbers.
Will has exposed the flaw in the lettering.
It's sort of towards the end. One character says, "Is she pretty?"
Yeah, that
and then
is.
underneath it says,
That is
"She
quite
has
weird,
some."
but I don't know why.
She has something, and in both cases, if you just put the full word on the line underneath, it would definitely fit. Anyway,
Yeah, I'd not thought about that. That is, other than a couple of instances of that, though, pretty consistent.
yeah. Like I say,
Other than that, really good.
A bit like the script itself, it was something I put down to that it's been done after the fact. Somebody has had to come and fill in the text in these bubbles. So I'm certainly not like putting it down, but I didn't pick it out and think this is particularly good lettering piece.
I don't think anyone's actually credited for it either.
Guillem March is credited for it.
He's credited for the lettering, so
it's interesting to me though that it's credited that he did the script, art, and colours, and then separate credit that he did lettering and design, and then cover artist. Like, just give him credit for everything once.
Yes,
me.
Creator of all the things. Yeah.
Comic what I did.
Yeah. Guillem March done the work. Just think.
Number one employee.
Yeah.
Employee of the month again.
Anyone got anything else they want to throw in about this?
Not really.
Anyone looking forward to finding out what the other stories are?
Yes.
It only really occurred to me when we started talking about it now that it's called Laura and Other Stories.
It's not a glamorous name.
No, but I think it can be like, I mean, Carmen itself is a bit more of an unusual name, but I think that on its own has an impact, doesn't it? I think a single name. But it just kind of washed over me, this one.
So shall we move on then?
Indeed.
Yes.
Let us go then on to We Only Kill Each Other. This was written by Stephanie Phillips with art by Peter Kraus, colors by Ellie Wright. And I cannot see who that says the letter is.
The letterer is a larger world Troy Petrie.
Cool.
Troy Peteri.
Yeah, that
Troy
would be
Pantera.
The correct pronunciation.
No,
yeah, him.
Troy Walk. Troy Pantera's Walk. What I got there? Sorry, yeah, it's We Only Kill Each Other, written by Stephanie Phillips with art by Peter Kraus, colors by Ellie Wright, and lettering by Troy Peteri, and covers by Dave Johnson. Yeah, so this is a book about something I find quite interesting, which is like American like Nazism in the lead up and then later on like duration of the Second World War. From the point of view of Jewish American gangsters. And basically, it's going to be it's a book that seems to be about the mob going to war against American Nazism, which
A
is
story we've all been waiting for.
pretty cool. Like, its central characters from at the start are Jonas Kaminsky, who is like seemingly like an up and coming like mobster who's been hitting like the rackets of like the local sort of boss Levi Solomon. And yeah, it's like this first issue is just kind of about establishing the characters of the two of them. Like Levi, who is like quite a religiously observant, like quite a religiously observant, like Jewish man, like who there's a really great bit where he's reminded by a person who his men have captured that it's the Shabbat, and that and so like he shouldn't kill him because it's work. So he asks one of his henchmen if they're religious, and hands them the gun. And it's there's like let's do it like I say, Jonas is this up and coming sort of rough and like much more rough and tumble guy. We see him fight an anti-Semitic like German like at least supporter. I really enjoyed this book. I find the history of American Nazism really fascinating. Like, especially when you find like the pictures and like the footage of like the American Nazi summer camps and American Nazi conferences from the period. It's absolutely terrifying. I mean, in the same way that we had all of our various dalliances with Nazism and like outright mask off fascism with like Mosley and stuff. America's versions of that are really interesting. So it's like coming at like it's got subject matter that is interesting to me, and I appreciate the kind of like I like the ending of this as a first issue as well. Like, we've established the characters, they're like things come to like a boiling point, and then all of a sudden it's diffused, and we know that both of the characters are going to be like, it's diffused by like the police coming in and arresting them both, and we know that therefore they're both going to be in a situation like that the situation changes. They no longer have like the ability to just outright kill each other, and we're going to see them presumably decide to start killing Nazis.
Tale as old as time, truly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I quite enjoyed this book as well. I think in a pretty well-worn period of time for storytelling, it does feel like quite an interesting angle to come in at it, and to sort of, I guess, in this period of time, is finally put some Jewish people perhaps in a bit of a position of power, like within the storytelling, because in this period of time, at least from the American and British points of view, it tends to just be us saving, like the good old boys coming and saving the Jewish people from the Nazis. When I think it's nice to, not nice. This is going to be a grim book. It's not going to be nice, but no, I think it's fun to have that kind of emblematic set of Jewish characters. I like that they are very complicated characters, and none of the main cast that you're introduced to early on are clearly good guys, and they very much say as much in his monologues. I've forgotten them. Jonas's kind of monologue throughout it, that, you know, they're not good people, but they might be the right type of bad people for the for the worst bad people, and it's very pulpy. The art has a kind of updated sort of 70s 80s style, I felt, in terms of how it, like the penciling and stuff. It just gave it a very pulpy feel, and I think it's going to be a rip-roaring adventure. Sorry, Zach.
Incidentally, on the pulpy artwork, Peter Kraus is the artist who did like that second volume or prequel volume of The Wrong Earth, Dragonfly and Dragonfly Man.
Yes.
Oh, cool. Actually, that makes sense now. Yeah, I see that.
I mean, he's been doing comics for a long time, so I guess
he did. He did Irredeemable, didn't he?
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
And you can see bits. You can see bits of like the Irredeemable art, but just like kind of like more almost more developed. But
Which
you see
makes
it
sense.
most.
It's been some time, right?
Yeah, but I always see it most when there's a few panels up close of Levi's face. And at those moments I'm like, oh yeah, this is the guy who did Irredeemable. But with the coloring on it and the shading, like, it's much different. I love how like the Jonas looks like at points looks like such a Chaykin character. Like, you never see his eyes open like properly. He's got those like just the where you draw almost like two lines as eyes through most of his appearances. I think you only see his eyes open in the last page of it, and he's got that lantern jaw. He is just like your is it Jack of Hearts in Marvel? I'm gonna have to look this up. Yes, Jack of Hearts. Like,
getting into your own niche there, buddy.
Oh yeah, no, I know I am, but like he's got like elements of like that, like Chaykin looking stuff. It's really good. And I think just has a lot of room for like exploration of like race, religion, and everything in it, and like the fact of basically saying, oh yeah, to be racist in America, even to be like anti-Semitic in America, you didn't need to be a Nazi. Like,
no,
like that's a thing I hope it kind of will look at as well. Is that like, it was all happening there, long before the Nazis. It's still happening, like, differently. But it's still there, and like it'll be interesting to see, like I say, how it kind of talks about like the less overt, like less mask off racism, and how it just approaches like racism that isn't someone wearing a Klan hood.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun in the way that the kind of the best crime fiction is fun. Though, is when you are asked to sympathize with
bad
for the villain,
these real bastards, and they're going to get like, we're going to see them do worse things, I think, before the series runs. But it's against Nazis, which is
literally like
history's greatest enemy.
Get out of jail free.
yeah, everybody's favorite punching bag. And I'm cool with it. I do think it kind of it feels like just a very simple premise that I think, if done with enough nuance and just really fun story beats, I think it will just be an incredibly like fun, quite perhaps
Healthy?
perhaps a bit kind of violence aggrandizing, but in the best possible way.
Yeah.
A good target if you're going to
like a good revenge flick where you punch in the air when somebody's head gets pulled off.
I mean, it's great that basically the people you're rooting for are the bad guys. Like, I think he says there are basically no heroes in this book. We're all villains. We're all shades of villainy, because we mythologize World War II to the point where there is absolutely no nuance. And it's like, we talk about, particularly in the UK, it's become a bit of a national obsession about how great we did and all that. And it is very easy because, Nazis really evil. And yet at the time, people didn't believe Nazis were killing Jews. And, we had a lot of fascism here. And in America, they didn't want to come in the war in the first place.
And all that sort of stuff wasn't necessarily the motivation for getting into the war.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't to do with, we're going to go and, save all these poor people.
Yeah, we're not going to go and save like the Romani. We're not going to go save the homosexuals.
No, we're not doing it for that. We're doing it for other things. And it's got to the point where we don't see, like, people talk about the Blitz spirit. Well, what people don't like to point out is there was a thriving black market in the UK during World War II. There was lots and lots of crime. There was looting that went on, and there was a thriving underworld, and we never talk about that. And it's nice to see the American underworld, the Jewish underworld, getting a bit of the spotlight. And yes, I think there is going to be some, as you say, Will, the Nazis are an obvious punching bag, but at the same time, I suspect that there will probably be, other crime going on because they can't stop themselves, because that's who they are. They are the bad guys, but they are the bad guys we want to win. And I love that in any crime book, that when you have a bad guy who you actually quite like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Root for.
Yep.
I think that's going to be a fun one. Although I think that's pretty much all I got to say.
Yeah, same. Just good book. What I like.
I don't think I've got a lot to add to this one that hasn't already been said. Good job, guys.
Yay, covered all the bases.
So that's kind of it.
There's our 4 books. Well, we need to order.
Yes.
God.
Will, would you like to go first?
Yes.
It's a tough week, isn't it? Sorry, tough month.
As usual.
Yeah, not so much. 4th, Laura. 3rd, A Thing Called Truth. I think there's just a few particular choices that didn't quite work for me, but I think that still has plenty of potential. Could pick up yet. Then We Only Kill Each Other, for the reasons I said 10 to 15 seconds ago. And finally, What's the Furthest Place From Here? I think Rosenberg and Boss are quickly becoming like one of my favorite comic duos. I love 4 kids walk into a bank, and this just feels like it's got that same vibe, and it's definitely the one I'm most excited to see. I mean, Jesus, what's it about? I don't know. Do they?
Does anyone?
Do they know things? Let's find out. That's it. That's my 4. Chew on that, world.
I guess I can go next. Don't know why I'm committing to that idea. So yeah, 4 is Laura. I don't think it's bad. I just think, having read Carmen, yeah, I know, and it does feel very proto Carmen. I agree with Angela's statement some time ago. 3 is probably We Only Kill Each Other. I'm into it, and I really liked this first issue. I think Stephanie Phillips is a really good writer, and everything she's written, Nuclear Family and the other ones.
Is it Butcher of New York? Did she do?
Butcher of New York. Thank you. Butcher of New York. No, Butcher of Paris.
Sorry, Butcher of Paris.
That's the one.
Butcher of New York is also available. Butcher of Paris and Nuclear
Butcher,
Family.
and American Butcher in London.
American.
I have read other books by her, and I can't think what they are.
No.
But I've liked all of what I've read, and equally Peter Kraus, I think, is a great artist who has a very kind of classic comic style. I think I liked other things more. You're welcome. Then it's even harder because I just don't know. Can I have a joint second place and nobody wins? Is that?
I'll go with that.
No. Pick. Sophie's choice. Choose between your babies.
I think both of the thing is with both A Thing Called Truth and What's the Furthest Place From Here, I have no clue where we're going next issue. I just don't really know.
I hope Burger's alive in this one.
Oh man, I love Burger.
Oh yeah.
He didn't die. He just went to the post-apocalypse.
Just went to the city. 2, I'm going to go A Thing Called Truth. It's both these books, again, are things I've been waiting for and looking forward to since they were announced. I'm going to stick with both of them. A Thing Called Truth has one weakness that What's the Furthest Place From Here doesn't, and that is What's the Furthest Place From Here has a 3-page Hall Notes joke. And whilst I'm not particularly sure the issue needed to be 60 pages, I think it could have been, for so many chapter breaks, I feel like you could have cut it in a variety of places and done it in many ways. I think it is a solid issue and kind of throws so much at you that I'm legitimately really curious where that's going to go. Much the same, A Thing Called Truth, I'm really curious where it's going to go. I just think it could have done with being the extra length that was afforded to What's the Furthest Place, interchangeable. Could have gone on either. What's my point? Anyone?
Which,
Yeah.
number
Why?
I think ultimately though, so yeah, first I'm going to go What's the Furthest Place From Here, second A Thing Called Truth. My wrap-up statement for all of this would be that I think
Comics
all
is
of...
a land of contrasts.
Shut up. I think the creators this month in these books we've picked, Guillem March, Eliza Romboli and Iolanda Zanfardino, Stephanie Phillips and Peter Kraus, Matthew Rosenberg and Tyler Boss are just all really, really good. And okay, no, Peter Kraus has been doing this a long time, so he doesn't really fall into the category of the rest of them. But I feel like all of them are creators that if they put out a book, I'm probably going to check it out.
Yeah.
With very little exception. So Everyone's pretty awesome, so congrats.
Yeah.
Well done at being awesome.
Who's next?
I'll go if you want. So since I went last at actually reading, so my last place is going to be Laura. It's just a case of like I've read better from the creator. I wanted better kind of with this. Next, I think I'm going to go with a thing called Truth. Really liked it. Really looking forward to seeing where it goes. And watching this madcap adventure, possibly across Europe, possibly across the world. Who knows? And then it's really tough. We Only Kill Each Other and What's the Furthest Place From Here. I really liked both of them. We Only Kill Each Other didn't have a Descendants album in it, or a Cool S. So that's
I don't remember a dick on anybody's forehead in any other books.
Or a Garfield mug.
Just saying.
But oh god, this is really tough. I think I'm going to have to go with We Only Kill Each Other as number 2, and What's the Furthest Place From Here as number 1, Garfield mug.
Hold that Garfield mug to the sky.
Angela?
I'm gonna have to get. Oh my god! Right, okay. So, 4th place is Laura. If I hadn't read Carmen first, it might have been higher. Who's to say? But I did read Carmen first. It's good. I'm glad I read it. I will probably read more. And then Everybody's Equal. No. Oh god. I'm gonna go with a thing called Truth in 3rd, purely because it felt like it needed more. I really enjoyed it, but I wanted more, so that's why. And then I'm just going to flip things to be different. Yeah. And I know there's going to be so much disappointment in Zach's face coming up now. I'm going to go with What's the Furthest Place From Here in 2nd place. I'm going to explain why I'm going to put We Only Kill Each Other in 1st. Because the one that stuck with me, the one that I was thinking about today when I was desperately trying not to strangle someone, was We Only Kill Each Other. Now, there might be a reason for that, but the one that I thought about, the one that made me think the most, was We Only Kill Each Other. That's fair. I love What's the Furthest Place From Here. I think it's a really good book. I think it's probably the best book of the 4. And any other month that would have been top. But I read it, I enjoyed it. I read it again, I enjoyed it. But it didn't stick in the same way that We Only Kill Each Other stuck, in that I was thinking about Jonas and his criminal activities outside of just a reading mind frame. So that's why I'm going with that. But I agree with Zach that they're all really good creators this month.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm really glad. I'm really glad that you've gone that way. So that,
to be honest, I mean, I could have gone either way, but I think why not? Let's just flip it for the sake. There you go.
I'm glad you did though, because it means that almost everyone's got a 1st place representation.
Almost everyone.
Almost everyone.
Apart from Laura. No one liked Laura.
I think it was just circumstantial.
Yeah.
I'd say if it's in a month with some other books we've read,
if it had been last
it wouldn't be 4.
Yeah.
But there we go. Sorry, Laura.
We apologise, but yeah. No, I think it's probably been I think it's the strongest month we've had. I mean, last month
while.
was strong, but this was
In
particular.
a while, but yeah.
I don't think I found last month that strong.
I don't remember last month.
It was October. That's
I
all
don't really remember yesterday, so last month that's quite a lot.
We've had some very strong months, and this one was like
Amongst them.
definitely one of them.
Mhm. Way to commit.
Conclusion, Comics is a land of contrast.
This was definitely an episode.
It was about.
I think we can all agree that this was one episode.
Oh, I've just remembered what last month was.
Yeah,
Last month was a thing.
it was a thing, but like this month, it's gone now.
And we
Yeah.
go forward into the
Yes.
future together.
Yes.
And we hope that you all will come with us into that future.
I'm not entirely sure what's going on right now, but
I like it. Keep going.
Somebody wrap it up quick.
That's what I was doing.
That
Now,
was-
Zach,
yeah,
say
I
the
was into
thing.
it.
So we've been Angela, Matt, Will, and Zach collectively bigger than capes. This has been bigger than capes and will continue to be. And remember that comics are bigger than
Bigger than
capes.
capes.
That was
Awful.
Atrocious.
Terrible.
Just
Oh.
Oh, I love that I make us do that.